Samson is my favorite kind of guy. I love him. I think he looks phenomenal.
Yeah.
But right now he's a third to fifth place guy. He's not winning it. Not yet, anyway. He's got to make some drastic changes to his physique. People think that things are happening today and they didn't happen in the 90s. Yeah, they did. There was guys who were taking 2,000 milligrams a test and losing their minds on trend. But the thing was, back then, steroids were not the main player. Today, I feel the main players are steroids. Very little training. The training to me is weird today, where I see guys training back, where they hunch in and they pull, and I don't get that. I don't know why people kneel down to do a cable row. Does your fucking lat does your lat know you're on your knee? Can I be frank here?
Yes.
You could look at it from a standpoint of all of the gear, 99% of the gear, I said 100% of the gear, from 1990 all the way to maybe 15 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, was 100% from a pharmaceutical company. Okay. And underground labs, I believe, create a different look compared to the guys from back then. There is no question about it. It has to, because it does something. If you look at the skin of these guys, the fullness of, like, the old pictures in Flex magazine of Kevin Levrone, Dorian Yates, Lila Brada, even Francis Benefato,
yes,
to Mike Francois.
Yeah.
And you look at the guys today, is a completely different look.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Muscle Discord, and we have a very special guest on the Muscle Discord podcast, IFBB Pro, Vinny Galanti. Man, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Matt, for having me. I appreciate it.
No problem, man. Thank you for coming on. And so, you know me, I'm just going to jump into these questions, get right to it. Got a lot of questions prepared for you, and I know you're a veteran in the game. You're an OG. So you have a wealth of knowledge in this business, in this industry. So the viewers are going to be in for a treat here with Vinny. So let's jump into it. So at what age did you start working out?
I started working out at, I think I was 14 or 15 years old in like 1982, 83. Yeah. I had a weight set in my basement. My dad, brought home a weight set. Your typical, I think it was Dan Laurie at the time, a metal weight set. And one day, if you could recall, they had those little red, they'd slide onto the skinny bar with a little metal handle. And you
oh, yes, I had those. They were like brown weights. They were like cement plastic on the outside.
The cast iron ones.
Okay.
And one day, my dad, he freaked out because I think I was doing a dumbbell press or a fly. The dumbbell that fell apart.
Yeah.
Smashed me in
the
face.
Okay.
Yeah. He said, "No, we're getting rid of that." And you're not going to believe what he got me after that. I was so embarrassed. He got me a solo flex machine, which had those bands.
Yes.
It was ahead of its time. It was pretty cool. It was all resistance. But so my weights were short-lived. And then I was working out on these bands for a while.
Yeah.
And I realized that my next door neighbor was the grandfather to Billy Schultz, who owned Billy's Gym in Bayonne, New Jersey.
Okay.
And if any OGs out there remember, back in the 80s, you weren't allowed in the gym until you were 18. So I lied about my age, and I started. I would take the bus because I didn't have a car, so I had to take a bus 35 minutes from Jersey City to Bayonne every day and work out.
And you're still in Jersey? I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, I'm in North Jersey now. I'm about 20 minutes north of where the New York Giants lose.
Yes. Why did you get into bodybuilding? Like, what made you? Not every kid wants to just start hitting the weights at 13, 14, 15 years old. What attracted you to that?
I think looking back, I probably had ADHD. I probably my testosterone was blasting through my body.
Yeah.
I couldn't think straight. I couldn't do anything with focus. And when I started to lift weights, everything just fell into place. And I felt like I was home. Never thought about competing. Didn't even know what that was. And there were two girls. We're going back to 1983, 84. And there was these two girls that hung out with us, and they competed, and they were teenagers.
Okay.
And they were like, yeah, we did a bodybuilding show. And I was arrogant and cocky, and I said, I could do that. And they're like, no, you can't. Yeah. And then shortly after that, I went to Billy's, and I saw all these guys training for a non-sanctioned event called the Mr. Hudson County. Okay. And with my very limited knowledge of nutrition, I trained for my first contest with eating cottage cheese and fish fillet sandwiches from McDonald's.
Yeah, you did what you had to do back then.
Well, there was more knowledge. I just didn't know it yet.
Yes. And so fast forward. Okay, let's fast forward here. First, I want to get, what's your current age, height, and weight? Like, what are your stats?
So I just turned 57 this past April. I used to be 5'8". I think I'm 5'7" now.
Okay.
And my next contest, I'll be competing in Classic, because the IFBB increased the weight class from 185 to 192 in my height category.
Okay.
My physique lends itself more to Classic anyway.
Yep.
And for me to compete, I've done 13 Masters Pro shows, and I've won 8 of them.
Yeah.
And so I've been very successful, but it's a lot of work for me to be competitive, because I have to eat an enormous amount of food just to stay big and full.
Yeah.
And in the Classic, I can just, eat clean, eat good. Mm-hmm. I look good. I mean, I don't have to keep up that weight, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. So let's talk about your first, when did you turn pro? What year did you turn pro?
I turned pro in 2008 after 16 years of trying to turn pro. So I competed, I trained and won the overall at the 2008 Masters Nationals. I won the light heavy and the overall. But my first national contest was 1991. And I think Kevin Lerone was in it, and Paul DeMeo and all those guys. I took dead last in the middleweight class that year. And then in 92, I didn't look back, and I just started winning shows in top 3, top 5 in the nationals. And I also won the USA. So I got 4 national titles under my belt before I turned pro.
Okay. Yeah. So that's perseverance, 16 years, you said, before you got your pro card. That's how long you were competing. And, a lot of guys now, you get your pro card. It's, I don't know, I would say maybe it's easier nowadays. There's just so many pro cards being given out, and it just goes to show what it was like and how hard it was back in the day to get a pro card. Extremely
difficult. I think by today's standards, I could have turned pro, I think 3 times. Mm-hmm. Back then, but I took a couple of second places. Yep. And I'm not one of these guys, like I see a lot of old school guys rag on today's standards, and I don't look at it that way. I just look at this is today. Yeah. And today's different than when I did it. Dexter Jackson told me something very, 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 very profound many years ago. Yeah. He said, it doesn't matter how you get your pro card. It only matters what you do with it. So there's thousands of people turning pro, and only a handful that do very well. Okay. We're going to get it. I want to wait. I want to save that, because we're going to get into the weeds here with those questions. And I want to get some of your training and stuff in before that. So I don't get off track. So can we talk about some of the shows you've won, the Masters,
etc. Give us a brief rundown because we've done so many.
So can I start from the beginning?
Yeah. Yep.
So I was telling you offline that I have 9 anchors in this shoulder,
Yes.
and I have 5 anchors in this shoulder. I tore both rotator cuffs.
Yeah.
And at the time I was retired. I was happy. Life was good. Running my business. I just never thought I would step on a stage again.
Yeah.
And when I had these injuries, I told my doctor, hey, listen, I don't know what the future holds for me. If I ever decide to compete again, can you please treat me like a professional athlete and not a 46-year-old guy having his shoulders together? And he did a great job. Yeah. So my first contest back was the 2017 Masters Baltimore Pro. And I took dead last.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even upset about it. I was just like, okay, I'm finding my way again. I have to learn how to train again, because there was things that I just couldn't do. I couldn't get my hands over my head and do a pull down. I couldn't do barbell rows. I couldn't do things at that time. Yeah. And then I did the same exact contest a year later, the 2018 Masters Baltimore Pro. And I've always been a realistic competitor. Like today, you see people like getting on an airplane and flying to a qualifier. Like, yeah, there's a shitload here in New Jersey and New York. Yeah. Why are you spending so much money? It makes no sense. Yeah. I think people want to jump on the bandwagon and live their dream. And that's great, but do it home. Save some money. This is an expensive sport. Yeah. So I chose to drive to Baltimore and compete in the Masters Baltimore Pro. And I thought that was realistic. And the outcome was exactly the same. I took dead last again. And then I don't want to mention anyone's name, but I reached out to a top coach, and he to help me for the Masters Pittsburgh Pro in 2019. And he told me, Vin, your better days are behind you. Why don't you just retire? You had a great career, and no one's going to remember these last 2 years of you taking dead last in the Masters Baltimore Pro. And, you know, that pissed me off. I'm like, I'm not done. And yeah. Don't look at me, 48-year-old. Don't look at me as whatever I was, 49. Don't look at me like that. Come on. I thought, like, if you're a good coach, then you would be able to help me figure this out. Yeah. So he turned me down. Second coach I went to kind of told me the same thing, told me that he thinks the sport is ahead of me, that my better days are behind me, same shit. And I developed a chip on my shoulder, and it opened up a can of worms. It just pissed me off. And at the same exact time, well, I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan, but I'm also a huge Tom Brady fan. Yeah. And I was watching a lot of little segments on Tom Brady on how he started to manipulate his training for recovery and longevity and what he's done over his career. And I started to think, like, you know what, I have to approach this a lot better. I'm older. I have to train differently. I got to like just block out all the things I used to know and relearn how to train. So I put the ball in motion. I moved the wheel forward, and I changed my training. We could dive into that later. I ended up with now eight wins. I won the Masters Pittsburgh Pro, 50 and 40. I had to go back to the Masters Baltimore Pro, and I won the 50, the 40, and the 35. Yeah. And I won the 50 in the Hurricane Pro.
When you say 50, does that mean that's you're over 50 winning these shows?
Yeah, the age group, the over 50, over 50. Yeah. Yeah. So, I won the Daytona Pro. I won the Tampa, and I can't remember. I think I won one more, but I can't remember what it was.
That's crazy, because you're in your 50s winning these shows, these pro shows, these master shows, and you have these injuries that you're dealing with, and people telling you, you know, you should retire, you're done. And again, this is a story of perseverance and just your dedication to this sport and believing in yourself, and look at what you can accomplish. Right. So,
you know what's funny, Matt? Every time I accomplished, even if I took, you know, there were shows where I taken second or fourth, In the Masters Pro World, they took fifth. And a lot of times these guys would say to me, other competitors would say, what did you do? How did you put together the physique that you presented at the show? And I would tell them exactly what I do. And none of them. So let me go back for a second. I love watching motivational movies, and I love watching like The Miracle with the Hoosiers and all those kind of movies, because I need something to be inspired by, right? I need something to get me a little bit, and throw a Rocky movie in there too a little bit. And there was a movie, I believe it was about the Vinny story. I believe for this, and at the very end of the movie, a reporter says to Vinny Pazienza, "What's the biggest lie they told you?" And his answer was that it was that simple. And she says, "You mean that it's a lie? It's not that simple?" And he says, "No, it is that simple." And I can't tell you how simple my training is and my eating. And nobody believes it because they think it's got to be some complex science project in my 50s to accomplish what and it's not. It's not. I'm just disciplined, and don't listen. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that I don't have the occasional slice of pizza or a couple slices of pizza. I do. I enjoy myself. In the off season, I have a keg for a stomach, not a six pack. I enjoy life, but when it's time that it's 20 weeks out from a contest, I give myself 8 weeks, which I call a transition phase, and then 12 weeks out, I'm ready to go balls out training for a show. But it's really simple. It's not anything complicated.
Well, let's dive into your training then. Tell us a little bit about your new method of training into your 50s now, and what it takes to get the physique that you have and maintain that.
Okay, so I do see a lot of guys my age still pounding away with heavyweight, and they can handle heavyweight. I've never been a strong guy, so it was really confusing for me when I came back, like what was heavy to me and what was light. Like, am I trying to take this workout easy? Am I working out too hard? So I had to find a balance for what I was doing. And older guys don't get, when you've been training 30, 40 years, older guys don't get that pump like they used to when they were a kid.
Yes.
And we're always chasing it. We're always chasing that. Now, I'm not talking about what the end result will be, because a lot of trainers out there say, don't chase a pump, train this way. Forget all of that. And I'm just talking about a tangible feeling in the gym.
Yes.
Something to walk away and go, I had a good workout.
Yeah.
But what I started to fumble around with was just back up a little bit. I did one powerlifting meet. I was with Universal Nutrition for 18 years back in the day, and I met a lot of the powerlifters. Andre Skiba at a Skiba's gym in South Jersey took me under his wing for a whole year with Eric Schwartz, who is with Paw Power Nutrition. And I trained with them for literally a year. And I just forgot everything I knew about bodybuilding. And I just focused on just the basic squat, bench, and deadlift and some ancillary exercises just for a year. I just wanted to do something different. And then when I had the shoulder injuries, I applied the same method, the Wendell method, 5-3-1, 5 reps, 3 reps, 1. Yeah. Now, I'm not a power lifter, so I can't debate on this. I can't defend it or anything like that. So I only knew it then. So I started to apply that a little bit. And then as I got back into competing, I realized that every time I would do 10 reps, 12 reps, it felt like a Mack truck ran me over later on that night. Mm-hmm. So how do I handle a little bit heavier weight? So I started to implement only a 5-rep scheme. So say, for instance, I knew 70-pound dumbbells were a little struggle for me for dumbbell bench press. And let's say I could only get, say 6 reps with it. Well, everything before that, instead of doing 10 reps, 12 reps, I would do only 5 reps. And when I did 70, I would do 5 reps. And that left more fuel in the tank to grab the 80s and I could actually go to failure with 80s. Next thing I know, I started growing again. I started filling out again. And now I intertwine that into my current workout scheme. So I did that for like about 2 years.
Okay.
And then now I'm in the 12 to 15 rep range. I can handle it now. But every now and again, I go back to just 5 reps because I just need to that day. Yeah. I don't focus, and this is the most important part, I don't focus on what I cannot do anymore. I focus on what I can do. And what I mean by that too is, like, I don't say, like, I'll tell somebody don't focus on what you can't do anymore, and they'll go and focus on saying, I can only do this because I can't do that. No, just don't even talk about that. Just do this exercise this way and forget that you used to do it when you were 30. Do it this way. I think that's the biggest thing, because guys get caught up in themselves with focusing on the past, and I don't do that at all.
Yeah, I'm older now too, and when you said chasing the pump, I know, like, first off, I'm not on a big cycle like I used to be when I was competing, and the pump, you get a huge pump on all the stuff. You're taking a lot of stuff. Now I'm not, and I'm like, I don't get that crazy pump, you do when you were competing, and I'm like, man, it's just not the same. But I'm okay with that. I mean, I realize I'm not taking a big cycle now or anything like that, so I still get a okay pump, but I see what you're saying. Like, trying to get that pump and get that feeling in the gym where you actually accomplish something is important. So good point on that. I want to talk about your current, like, diet. Talk about training, and let's kind of talk about your contest prep diet. How many weeks are you out from your show coming up?
The Masters Pro World is Sunday, September 1st. So I think I'm 16 weeks out.
16 weeks.
Coming Sunday. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So what does your diet look like now, 16 weeks out?
So I'm in a transition phase where, don't get me wrong, I eat 5-6 meals a day. I eat good. And what I'm about to tell you, I did going way back to the 90s. This has nothing to do with what is in vogue now. Mm-hmm. After a back day and after a leg day, I have either like a double cheeseburger with bacon and fries and all that stuff, or I have, and I do those 2 meals, and the other rest of the meals are all clean. I have about 40 grams of carbs per meal, and I stick with about 6 ounces of protein per meal. Anything more than that, anything more than that really just gives me bad digestion. My body does not digest more than 6 ounces of protein per meal.
Can I stop you there? Why the cheeseburger or whatever after a back day and a leg day or whatever?
A couple of reasons. It's my own version of a cheat meal to keep me eating clean the rest of the week, because I don't have I don't say I'm going to cheat a certain day, or I don't believe in these refeed meals. I don't believe in all the bullshit that happens. I think people are weak-minded today. Like, the first thing I usually get from a new client is, when do I get a cheat meal? I think that's complete bullshit. And then as the weeks go on, I start cleaning it up, where like today I trained back. I didn't eat bad today at all. I kept eating clean. I kept eating clean. And so they get like cleaned up as the weeks go on. Mm-hmm. If I do go out to dinner on a Saturday and I eat something, I eat it. I don't really stress about it. If I have more carbs in one meal because I feel like I need it, or some days I feel like I don't need carbs, I cut back. But then when I'm 12 weeks out, now I'm mentally ready. I'm organized. I'm getting all my meals in, because I think it's completely unrealistic to be like a robot all year long and just like it. I see these guys today, and I'm like, you're gonna burn out really quick. You're not gonna last 40 years. You're not gonna no. And some people are like, I don't want to last 40 years, and that's okay. But I think there's a lot of burnout today. You don't see the guys staying in the game longer as long.
No, not at all. And I was asking, why is it on your back day? Is it because that's a larger muscle group and you want that cheat meal to be utilized during the larger muscle group days?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And I also feel like I just know my body, and I always have a bigger appetite after a leg day and back day. And I utilize those calories. And then, but when it's 12 weeks out, that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And I don't believe in a larger meal just because it's back day and just because it's leg day. Off season, we can get away with it. That's when you can make some of your excuses. That's when you can slack a little bit, and that's when I do it. But when it's 12 weeks out, it's got to be balls out, dieting. It's got to be rotating your carbs. And I found a kind of a sweet spot. When I was younger, I could never have the amount of carbs that I have now, which is interesting at being a little older.
Yeah.
So I have low carb days Monday and Tuesday, which is 100 grams of carbs each day.
Yeah.
Then Wednesday to Saturday, my carb intake is 300 each day.
Okay.
And then on Sundays, it's 400.
Okay.
And I rotate. And once there's a sticking point and I'm not seeing any development, any changes in body fat decrease, I might do 3 days of 100 grams.
Yeah.
And instead of 300, I might keep it at like 250.
Yeah.
And instead of 400, I might keep it at 350. But that's a
good,
that's a call you have to make as time goes on.
Yeah.
You know, we have these conversations now, right? Where everyone doesn't want a cookie cutter diet. But not everyone today understands. A lot of my clients and a lot of guys I speak to act like they know the sport because of the podcasts that are out there today. And they learn from podcasts and hearing what guys do.
Yeah.
And they don't understand real life manipulation. Like real life, like, okay, I just did this for 3 days and I don't see a change. Well, what do you do next? Do you eat more food? Do you eat less food? And that's when experience comes into play.
Yeah. Yes, it does. And with regards to your cardio, because there's a big debate on like, do we actually need to do a lot of cardio, or is it just based on your diet? What's your philosophy on cardio, and how much cardio are you doing during your prep?
Again, it's all like it's individual. So if you got a guy who is a construction worker,
yes,
and they're all day long,
their
cardio has to be a little bit less than the guy who's sitting at his desk on a computer, or a woman, right? So it's all a base. It's based on individuality. You have to take into consideration what they do for a living. You have to take into consideration stress factors. Do they have a family? Do they have 3 kids at home that are crying and waking up at night? And people don't understand that you really have to take that into consideration. And I've never believed in fasted cardio. I don't believe in it. I've tried.
Why is that? I want to always ask why.
I'll tell you why. So I jumped on the bandwagon back in the 90s, just like everybody else did. And, you know, we didn't call it fasted cardio. We just called it cardio in the morning. We didn't have names everybody else for today. So I did it for a contest. And what I found was, 1, I didn't look any different. 2, I was completely exhausted during the course of the day. And I thought my performance when I go to train is diminished because I'm tired. I don't have the energy to give it 100% in my workout. So I started doing cardio, and you know, even back in the 90s, we had people who knew it all and thought they knew it all. And I said, you know what, I'm not going to tell. I think it was the 92 jersey, and I just didn't tell anybody I was training for it. And I did everything the way I wanted to do it, where it was I trained, and believe it or not, back then we were doing push-pull legs. Everybody thinks it's all new today. Like, it ain't new. You can't reinvent the wheel. So I did cardio after working out, and I wasn't telling everyone, saying, "Oh, are you training for a show?" Like, nope, just doing cardio because I just want to cool down. And nobody gave me an argument. And then maybe like a month out, I said I was doing a jersey. And then everybody was like, "Oh, you got to do fasted cardio." And I would go, "Yeah, I have a treadmill at home. I'm doing it then." I would just lie because
Yeah.
all these people are they're know-it-alls, and you have to go back to it's all individuality. It's all based on what works for you, and
Yeah.
not because someone else does it.
Yeah. 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 I agreed with that on the cardio. I was a guy that did cardio after my workouts or at home at night. Not a really did some fasted cardio, but yeah, more of a just after your workout doesn't really matter for the most part. I mean, some people say it is more effective and efficient doing fasted cardio, that you're in a better burn zone for burning fat and stuff. But I don't know. I don't know really. I don't know. There's a lot of science behind that. But
Percentage of that is minute. It's small.
yeah,
Maybe on paper it will show something different
yeah,
than what is actually going on in real life.
yeah.
But if I'm exhausted and I can't get good workouts, then why am I
What's the
doing this?
point? Yeah,
What's the
yeah.
point? Right.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's calories in and calories out. I don't know if is that kind of how you look at it, calories in, calories out, and you're just burning calories on that treadmill, or are you
You
in
know,
a fat burning zone on the treadmill? Like, what's your thought?
all right, I'm gonna say something that's like completely like what are you talking about?
Yeah,
I give it no thought. I've never counted a calorie in my life.
yeah,
I remember either reading an article or maybe seeing one of Sean Ray's training videos. We're talking back in the day.
hmm
And he said, and at the time I was like trying to figure out counting calories and and even the glycemic index. I was trying to figure all that stuff out. And I was like, I'm miserable. This is not enjoyable.
yeah,
And then when I heard Sean Ray say he's never counted a calorie in his life and he went over his diet, I'm like, if Sean Ray could do this, I'm going to try it.
yeah,
And then it made life much more easier. And I just never counted. The only thing I count is I weigh out my protein and I know amounts of carbohydrates that work for me. So if you
okay,
want to say calories, okay, you can look at it from a carbohydrate standpoint
yeah,
and a standpoint, but I don't add them up and say, oh, I have 3,000 calories this day or 3,200 that day, and then I increase it. I just increase and decrease carbohydrates as the weeks go on. I'll tell you a funny story. So back in the day, for 3 years, I trained under Maz Ali, who is an IFBB judge, promoter. And here's exactly how it went down from 1997 to 2000. And mind you, during these years, I was 4th and 3rd in the nationals in the light heavyweight class.
okay,
And he would take a piece of paper and he would write Monday through Sunday across meal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines to break up each meal. And he would write
yeah,
PC, 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 PC. And as the week went on, there was more P's than C's, meaning less carbohydrates.
oh, okay, protein, carbs,
Okay.
yeah,
So now we didn't count carbs. We just took a potato and ate the potato.
yeah,
We had a cup of rice. We just made a sweet potato. We didn't put that much thought into it. And I think if people went about that approach, they might be less stressed training for a contest. It is that simple. I
yeah,
mean, there could be, there's going to be somebody out there to debate me and say, no way. That's fine. You could do what you want, make your life hectic and crazy and try to calculate everything. But if you believe in yourself and you're really just being honest with how much work you're doing, how much cardio, how much training, how long you're dieting,
yeah.
you're going to get in shape.
So do you believe in like you have to be in a deficit, calorie deficit? Like, are you in a deficit, or do you even know because you're just saying, well, I want 40 grams of carbs today on this meal, or like,
Well,
how do you, yeah,
so I know I'm in a deficit when I lower my carbohydrates.
yeah,
And
okay,
when I lower my carbohydrates, I don't increase my protein.
okay,
I know do that. I don't do that.
yeah,
And I get rock hard, shredded, grainy.
yeah,
And I'm in my 50s, now I'm 57. I don't put too much emphasis on it.
yeah.
It's just what I do.
Yeah, no. People are watching, they're learning from this, so that's why I'm kind of picking you on it a little bit more,
And
as
the
to
other
see.
thing, Matt,
Yeah,
I have to say, I think people should experiment during the off season,
Okay.
because during the season you have no stress. You're not worried about peaking for a contest.
Yep.
So during the off season, whether you put a little bit of body fat on or if you get a little more ripped, at the end of the day, you're putting muscle on because you're getting enough protein, enough nitrogen balance going into your system, right? You're getting a good pump, getting everything you need.
Yep.
And you know what works for your body.
Yeah.
And now you go, oh, I can apply that to a contest.
It's a good point. Good point. Experiment in the off season. Lower your carbs for a couple of days and see what happens, and or increase them and stuff like that. So good points there. Well, let's transition into more of the current state of bodybuilding. And I like to ask questions to guys that have been in the sport a long time, like yourself. What's your thought on the bodybuilding in the 90s and the 2000s when you were competing hardcore during that period? Still are today, but that's when you were coming up, versus now, the current state of bodybuilding. Do you think your time was better? Do you think it's improved, evolved better into where we are right now? Or has it kind of digressed in a sense where everyone's getting a pro card? It's easier to get a pro card. What are your thoughts on now versus then?
So everyone getting their pro card is the business end of the sport that has no control over us.
Yep.
It can't control that.
Yep.
How the guys look today and how the guys look in the 90s, yeah, it's completely different. Again, going back, I'm a guy who, I'm not going to say my era was better. Every era is different, and every era has its pros and cons, right? So you can look at it from a standpoint of, and can I be frank here?
Yes. You
can look at it from a standpoint of all of the gear, 99% of the gear, I said 100% of the gear, from 1990 all the way to maybe 15 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, was 100% from a pharmaceutical company. Okay. And underground labs, I believe, create a different look compared to the guys from back then. There is no question about it. It has to, because it does something. If you look at the skin of these guys, the fullness of, like, the old pictures in Flex magazine of Kevin Levrone, Dorian Yates, Lila Brada, even Francis Benefato,
yes,
to Mike Francois.
Yeah.
And you look at the guys today, is a completely different look.
It's true.
I think we didn't have the mindset of eating as much as the guys do today.
Yep.
I don't think growth hormone or insulin plays that much of a role.
Okay, I was going to ask that. Is that the factor in it?
Yeah, I don't think it makes much of a difference in the distension of their stomachs today, or how big the waist are.
Okay.
Because guys did it in the 90s too. It's just that whoever didn't do it to the extent they're eating so much food today. And I think culprit a little bit. You can't, people think that things are happening today and they didn't happen in the 90s. Yeah, they did. There was guys who were taking 2,000 milligrams a test and losing their minds on trend. But the thing was, back then, steroids were not the main player. Today, I feel the main players are steroids. Very little training. The training to me is weird today, where I see guys training back, where they hunch in and they pull, and I don't get that. I don't know why people kneel down to do a cable row. Does your fucking lat and does your lat know you're on your knee? No, sit the fuck down.
You're not getting more of an extension that way. I'm sorry. It's the same movement standing on your feet. But
they tuck in when they pull it. And I don't get that whole thing. And to having a t-shirt on to now it's called a pump cover, and they literally think like the pump cover is going to do something to them. You're fucking out of your mind. Like, just go and fucking train and like do barbell rows and squats and deadlifts. I see everybody gravitating towards cable movements and anything that's isolation movements. And guys will say, well, I don't want to get bulky. I'm like, well, listen, Frank Zane was like the most symmetrical guy. Lee Labrada, the most symmetrical guy. Bob Paris, and all these guys, they did heavyweight barbell squat, barbell rows, and all that crap that builds a big, thick, dense physique. And it has nothing to do with building a thick waist.
Yeah.
I just find it kind of nuts. But on the business side, that's the IFBB, and I have nothing to do with that. And I understand business.
Yeah.
So as a business standpoint, why not make two people turn pro in a class?
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah. That's the my next question then. What are your thoughts on nowadays bodybuilders only doing one show per year and then that's it? That's a wrap. They're done for the off season. And like before, when you were again in the 90s and the 2000s, you had guys doing 5, 6, 7, 10 shows a year.
What guy could you remember doing 5 or 6 shows in the 90s?
Well, I know Meals did a lot of shows. Cormier, they did a tour. They went to Europe. Coleman, they did more than this one show, right? They did a tour. They went to Europe. They did the whole, yeah.
But you have to remember that those guys didn't compete all year. They did the Olympia,
yeah,
and then those 4 or 5 shows immediately after the Olympia. So it was a condensed time period.
Yeah.
If you're talking 5 or 6 shows over the course of a year, that's completely different. Now, if you got a guy doing the Arnold, then the New York Pro, then the Tampa, and then the Olympia, that's a lot of drugs all year long. That's unhealthy for one, let alone just doing it for 12 weeks, right?
Yeah.
And then, so you don't, no, I don't, I have to disagree with you on that one.
Okay.
Guys did a lot of shows back in the 90s,
yes,
but they did it against a time frame.
Yeah, I'm not saying you have to spread it over a year. I'm just saying, like you said, they do the Olympia, then they go do the European circuit, and then they're done. So they back-to-back shows, but it was back-to-back. It wasn't spread out. Yeah.
Unfortunately, they don't have that circuit anymore. Which
yeah.
would be awesome. That would be really cool. Guys battling out. Remember the one year when I think Gunther Schoenkamp beat Ronnie Coleman.
Yeah.
A week after the Olympia.
Yes.
That was exciting. That was really cool. Like Gunther just beat Ronnie Coleman.
Yeah.
And that was off for the rest of the year.
Yeah. No, I see what you're saying. And there are shows that they're close together in Europe as well that are 2 weeks apart, some are a week apart, that you could line it up. But again, then the point is made that there's not enough money in bodybuilding. You got to fly yourself to these shows. You got to get the hotel, right, as an athlete. So that's probably a factor in that guys aren't competing as much because it's expensive, right? And then you get a $10,000 paycheck if you win, and your flight was $2,000, and your food and your drugs and your coach, and you're in a deficit after the show.
Yeah, well, I think there's some athletes who have the bill footed for them.
Yes,
and some have pay for themselves. And you got to put things in perspective. I'm the kind of person that says to somebody, they take second place at an open contest, and realistically, the 2 or 3 people they beat sucked, and they came in second, and now they want to go to the nationals. And I say, this is what's going to happen. You're going to be in a third call out, watching first call out, who are amazing competitors. Then you're going to see the second call out, who are really good competitors. And then it's going to be you with the rest of the guys. And you just spent over $4,000 or $5,000 to get there. For what? What experience is that?
Yeah.
I get that. Be realistic. Win some shows. Too many people brag about qualifying, but nobody cares about winning anything. Nobody cares.
Did you like the old point system where guys could qualify for the Olympia versus now you just have to win the pro show?
Yeah, it was a different time frame because you're going to see more people compete, right?
Yes.
So
with the point system.
Yeah, with a point system. But then I think is there a point system now, or
no? It's just you got to win a pro show now.
So a guy coming in second doesn't get points.
No.
And
I think you have these shows now seem to be smaller, less people in the lineup. 6 guys in a show, 5 guys in a show. Right. If you had a point system, I think you would increase the turnout because you have more guys knowing that if I get second or third in this show, and then in second or third in that show, second and third in that show, you're gonna have more guys do more shows to collect those points to compete at the Olympia, which makes it more right. versus you got Hunter, who's going to do 2 or 3 shows maybe this year and win all of them. He's taking away those qualification spots to the other guys, and it's just a smaller group of individuals that are going to end up on the Olympia stage. So you have that factor in
I
there.
think it goes back to what we were saying a moment ago about, it is a business, and trying to figure out what works better for the athlete and what works better for the IFBB. So maybe things will change in the near future, and it'll go back to something that's more conducive to the athletes and the IFBB in the sense of like what makes a better outcome and what makes a better product.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, if the Olympia is stacked this year, then I think they don't need to worry too much about it. But if the shows are having smaller turnout, smaller audiences, right, then they may need to kind of rethink how they do their circuit of shows and how they have guys qualify for these shows. Because I like the point system, because you're going to have more guys competing, more bigger names competing. The ones that are just on the cusp of winning a pro show, but that end up second and third most of the time, they're still going to end up at the Olympia, and we'll get to see them there. Versus now, you're not going to see those guys at the Olympia. So I kind of like
I'm excited to see Nick Walker at the New York Pro.
Yeah, that's coming up. Well, the Pittsburgh first is coming up. And we're going to see him in Martin Fitzwater, Big Ramy, Andrew Jacked, Hunter Labrada. That's, I don't think Quinton's going there, but it's going to be old Derek Lunsford. So excited to see how everyone is looking, how everyone compares to Derek on that stage. Obviously, Nick Walker is going to be a week out from the New York Pro, so he's going to have the advantage there. But I wanted to talk about, speaking of these people right now, I want to talk about, the current top five athletes at the Mr. Olympia State 2023. What's your take on these guys? And who do you like? Who do you think, maybe isn't deserving to be in that top five? What's your take on the current state of the Olympia competitors?
Right now, I think Nick Walker is a sleeper. I think he's gonna destroy everybody at the New York Pro and end up in the Olympia with shocking everybody. I know his work ethic. The one thing that I have a hard time with is remembering what the guys looked like in the Olympia from the 90s and 2000s, and it was a completely different look. And even Dorian back in the day, big guy, huge, but still had a small waistline. So seeing these guys today, I gravitate more towards Chris Bumstead, to be honest with you.
Okay.
That's my look. That's what I like. That reminds me. He's nothing against, Derek and everybody else in the pack. But it's not the look I like. It's probably something I wouldn't even gravitate towards thinking of being like. I wouldn't even think of being a bodybuilder today if I was starting out. I would think about being a classic competitor, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of Danny Hester. We came up together. So happy for him. He won the first classic Olympia. And now, Chris Bumstead is taking probably the same direction that Jay Cutler has in marketing himself and having a fan base the way Jay does. Jay is popular today after he's retired so many years. And once Chris retires, he's going to still be around the sport for a very long time. He's done it right, came along at the right time. I think competitors need to understand their market. I think Nick Walker has understood his market. Guys just need to understand what they bring to the table and play with that to understand, have more social media. We didn't have that back in the day. And for me, people say to me, "Are you upset that you don't look the way you used to look?" I'm like, "No, I'm focusing on what I look like now at 57." And I'm always should I post that? Shouldn't I post that? I don't want to be the old guy trying to look cool, So, I always looked at bodybuilding as a business from day one.
Yeah.
So when I trained for the nationals back in the day, I would make phone calls to all the photographers, because back in the day, photo shoots were free. I could call Urban Gelbuck or anybody and say, hey, I'm doing a national on this day, and I'm going to be in California for 5 days. Can we set up an appointment to do photo shoots? And then those pictures were sold to Flex Magazine, Muscle Fitness, Muscle Training Illustrated at the time, Muscle Development, Muscle Mag International, all those magazines that don't exist anymore. So I don't see a lot of guys. Unfortunately, magazines really don't exist today. But guys like Nick Walker and Labrada, they're really taking advantage of what they bring to the table, which is really cool.
Question for you. What is more important, conditioning or shape and symmetry balance?
So something I learned early on, back in 1993, I did the junior nationals, and I was in great condition. And I competed against, oh God, I can't remember his name now. He'll come back to me. He's from Florida. God. Oh my God, I can't believe I can't remember his name. So this guy wins the class. I came in second, and my shape destroyed his shape. And we were both in good condition, but he had just a little more edge on me. So sometimes shape has nothing to do with anything, because you got to remember the judges. This is what I was taught from John Kemper, who was our chairman back in the day. He taught me that shape is a natural thing. You can't change your shape. If somebody's blocky and someone has great shape, it comes down to the person who did their homework the most, in our opinion, as a judge. And not that I do my homework. Dave Marinelli, that's who it was. Dave Marinelli beat me in the junior nationals that year. And he was a little more he was a blockier guy, and I had a smaller waist, flaring lats, like the X frame. And he didn't, but he beat me because his conditioning was a little bit better. So learn that, like, okay, moving forward, I need to be on point at my show, whatever I do. And with the mindset, I stopped. I realized that when I train for a contest, and if I focus on, oh, Matt is going to be in the show, I got to beat Matt. That's my downfall. That's immediately from day one. I don't do well in the show. So I just focus on being the best Vinny can be on that day. And what does that entail? And how do I get there? That's what I focus. I don't focus on who's in the show.
Okay, so then the reason why I'm making this case is because you have Samson Dauda versus Hadi Choopan. Samson has the shape, Hadi has the conditioning, and it seems like the judges are going for the conditioning.
Yes. Samson's not yet.
That's the thing. I don't know what Samson has to do to get those glutes in. I don't think. I think it is. Do you believe there's a thing? It's genetics. People say, well, maybe it's his genetics. So you think it is? Okay.
Absolutely. I have lines in my glutes. I never ever can get shredded. One time I got my glutes in, and what happened was my entire upper body disappeared. I lost everything in my chest and my arms to get those glutes in. So at the expense of trying to get my glutes in, I came in really super flat. I didn't look good. So I know there's a balance on the whole picture. The whole picture of each competitor needs to be in balance. I mean, a guy like Samson, if you look at his progress over the last 3 years, he just keeps improving. And, Hadi is just a freak of nature. I mean, the guy is like crazy. He's like a better version of a Rich Gaspari. Like that, this crazy glue. Look at Barry DeMay back in the day. Barry had a crazy Christmas tree, shredded abs, everything, and a fat ass.
So it is to come down to a genetics thing, because he's putting in the work. He's doing the diet. Maybe there could be speculation that he isn't doing some of the stuff he needs to be doing. But
that's what people think, and that's what people are going to say, because he's standing next to a guy who looks a certain way, and they're saying that's the standard. You got to look like him. And when people, the new guys today, and I'm talking about people who are really just touching the ground and competing. They don't know bodybuilding yet. They only know what they're learning from influencers and what influencers are teaching. Because you got to remember, and I don't mean to hurt anyone's feelings, but there's a lot of people who don't know what they're talking about, teaching people who don't know what they're talking about. Yeah. And Samson Dauda, with all due respect, is doing whatever he needs to do. It's genetics. It's not like he's slacking. It's genetics. What the guy looks like, and that body looks like, and you can't. It's apples and oranges. And it's like everybody thinks like everyone says they don't want a cookie cutter diet, but they think everybody should look cookie cutter. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't. No.
Do you think
peak week?
Do you think that Samson can win the Olympia with the type of conditioning he brings from the back, or is if Derek's there, Nick's there, Hottie's there, and they're really lean from the back, and he's not? Do you think it's an uphill battle?
Samson is a 3rd to 5th place guy.
Yeah.
Right now.
Just crazy.
Right now.
Yeah.
And you don't discount Nick Walker. He's on a mission. I think Nick's got a chip on his shoulder. He hurt himself last year. He wants to improve and prove himself. Samson is my favorite kind of guy. I love him. I think he looks phenomenal.
Yeah.
But right now he's a 3rd to 5th place guy. He's not winning it. Not yet, anyway. He's got to make some drastic changes to his physique. Maybe be in the same condition that he was in at the Olympia at 4 weeks out, and then even get even better condition.
Yeah. But we're gonna see what happens. He's Team Kuwait now, so we'll see what happens there. He made that decision to join that camp. Who knows how that's going to be. Hopefully it works out for him. I wish him all the best there, but we'll see.
I would love to go there and train.
Yeah, I mean the gyms are amazing there. Like this, everything's at your access. Right? Food, gym, drugs probably there. So it's like it's probably
the only other thing I wanted to touch on is what everyone talks about peak week, right?
Oh, I can ask you some questions. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So I come from the school of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I see too many people thinking it's a science project, regardless of what they look like. If they look mint, if they look amazing, I can be a little bit better. I can get a little bit. Yeah, and what happens is to be 5% better becomes 20% worse. And I had it happen to one of my competitors this year, where I didn't change anything, right? And I'm glad the thing happened to him, so he understands it doesn't work. He rode into the whole week, riding in, continually drinking water, continually taking in sea salt. Sodium was high. His skin was saran wrap, dry. And he on his own decides the last day to eliminate water. And, it backfired on him. He pulled off a win. But I told him, and I'm brutal and I'm blunt, you won, but thank God the timing was in your favor, because by the time he got to the night show, he looked like dog crap, and would not have done that in the pre-judge. And thank God he didn't get rejudged. And a lot of people, I don't understand. I don't want a cookie cutter diet, but I want a cookie cutter peak week. And it's like, if they just got away from, like, I'm on the bandwagon here. I want to do what all the cool kids are doing. I want everything that, like.
Well, it's the whole carb loading thing where you're going from, you say you're eating 300-400 a day, and then now we got to start carb loading, and you're like, we'll do 1,500 a day. You're like, well, where did that number come from? What is that supposed to do? Right. So you got to just slowly, gradually, just, you're shredded, your glutes are dry, you're a week out. Now you're going to throw in 1,500 carbs, and you haven't done that forever, the whole diet. What's going to happen to you? We don't know.
And also, going back to what we were saying again, like a second ago, about you have to look at the whole balance, the whole picture. If something is not off, but not where everything else, like if your glutes are hard, hamstrings are shredded, everything's deep, everything's dry. I'm walking on stage looking like that. instead of trying to make that even better. Because I know, and this is a key thing that everybody should understand, 90% of your competitors are doing something they shouldn't be doing the last 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
And if you could take that and use that in your favor, if you're looking amazing, walk on stage as is. Don't touch anything, because you can guarantee that most of the people you're going to stand on stage with, they tweaked something.
Yes.
And to nail it even better is a far stretch.
I know, and that's the competitive side of us, is where we're looking awesome. We're 1 week out, we're fucking shredded, dry, vascular, and then we want to take the diazide, and we want to put a little bit. Just, I think I can pull the skin, the water a little bit tighter. I could do even better, and it doesn't. The juice isn't worth the squeeze when you add that little bit of diuretic in, or you drop your water too much, and you flatten out, and your veins aren't popping backstage. And like, what's going on with me? And it's like, man, I was so jacked a week out from the show, and I looked awesome. Now I'm backstage, I don't have the veins aren't pumping in my legs. Like, I've been there, done that, so I kind of know what that feeling is like. And
so have I. And that's why I say don't do it.
Yeah.
And I've had those days, those years where I took diuretics, and I've had, so when I won the USA in 93,
yeah,
whatever the hell I did with diuretics worked amazing. And I could never duplicate that again. And so I just chose, you know what, I'm not hitting my peak. I don't know how I peaked with that. I don't know how it worked. I don't understand it. And then I hired some coaches, and they tried to manipulate stuff, and like hit or miss. I look okay, take a fourth, take a third, and like, no, I want to win. And then when I made a comeback in competing in the Masters, I said, one of the things I said to myself was, I want to do this differently. I want to take myself away from bodybuilding mindset and be more in the mindset of common sense. I want to just use common sense with my prep. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's common sense. And I think that I think the majority of your listeners are gonna, snub me on this and say I'm crazy. There's no way. And then there's going to be that few that go, you know what, he's making some sense. And I'd rather have one person take my information and ride with it and win some shows and look amazing. And listen, at the end of the day, people have to remember that you could be your best ever and still lose a contest. Yeah. Because somebody else better can just show up, and you could be off and win a contest. So you have to put things in perspective of what makes you win a contest, and put that aside and figure out, did I peak or didn't I peak? Because winning and losing it's not the what's the word I'm looking for, the term?
The end all be all.
Yes. Yeah. You can't go by that. It's got to be, how did you peak?
Yes.
And I'm not talking about peak week. I'm talking about, how did you peak?
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I'm kind of like, when I'm coaching my clients and getting them ready for a show, I'm always like, okay, he's good, the glutes are in, but man, if I just pull a little bit more water, man, I think it could, right? And that's where I got to hold myself back a bit and kind of walk that fine line. But couple last questions here before we wrap up. You kind of went over the mindset of that, so I'm going to leave that one up, because you just touched on the mindset of what you need to be a bodybuilder and with your prep. We were talking about this. I was on the Menace podcast with Milos, Chris Cormier, Dennis James, and Mac Truck. And at the very end, we were talking about, okay, who really is the all-time best Mr. Olympia out there? And I'm not going to tell you who they said yet until you give me your answer, and then I'll see if you're in line with what they were saying. So who, in your opinion, is the best Mr. Olympia of all the Mr. Olympias?
Lee Haney.
That's what Milos said. That's what Dennis James said. That's what Mac Truck said. I said Ronnie Coleman, because I just think when I came up during the Ronnie Coleman days, I got to see his legacy. I didn't really see much of Lee Haney in the training videos of him. I knew he was a 7-time or 8-time Mr. Olympia, but I didn't know I didn't get to know him as a guy in training and stuff like I did Ronnie. So I just went straight to Ronnie. Like that guy's unbeatable. He's like, there's
Of
nothing.
course.
But they went to Lee Haney because he was the most probably dominant in winning each of his Mr. Olympias. And you couldn't ever question like, I don't think you should have won that one. Like with Ronnie, there was a couple like, maybe, I don't know if you should have won that one. But with Lee, except for the
Yeah.
last one, I think there was drug tested or something. But yeah,
90.
90. Yeah.
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 You know, like I said earlier, every era has its good and bad, and
Yeah.
everybody, you know, loves their own era. Listen, I'm a fan of Ronnie Coleman and Dorian Yates. I mean, they all brought something to the table. I remember the first time I saw Dorian Yates here in New Jersey. He guest posed at the Suburban Bodybuilding Championships. I can't remember what year it was, but I think maybe 90, 91.
Mm-hmm.
And we never saw a guy that big come on stage. I mean, we had a blizzard that day, so they condensed the whole show in prejudging and finals, all wrapped up in one. He comes out when they were tallying the scores to guest post, and then we had to get out of there because a blizzard came through New Jersey. And you know, like to see somebody like an alien coming off a spaceship, that was like unbelievable. Yeah. And then another guy who was very impressive was Mike Francois. You know, and then, you know, people don't think of like guys like Lee Labrada as being impressive, but he was impressive as well. Like, he could stand next to these guys and make some of these huge guys look small. So it's kind of cool. Yeah, but Lee Haney's my favorite. My best.
This Olympia. And was he the most impressive to you, or who was the most impressive? Because you've seen them all. You've been there, done that. So who's the most impressive bodybuilder you've seen in person?
I saw Lee Haney in person once competing. I saw Dorian twice. I saw Ronnie Coleman like 3 times, a couple times. I mean, they all brought something that was impressive, right? It would be amazing to see the best of Dorian and the best of Ronnie stand on stage. That would be like, right? That'd be so cool. You know, everybody wants to see home runs, right? Nobody wants to see a base hit. Nobody wants to see that, right? So when you see like freaks walk out on stage, even me, like I'm not a freak. I knew from day one I was never going to be like an Arnold. I knew I was going to be like a Frank Zane kind of guy, and I knew that, and I know how to stay in my own lane. And the training goes with it, right? So guys today see, you know, Hottie or Nick Walker, these guys, and they try to train like them, and you're only going to get hurt. Yeah. So, okay, getting back to like, you know, impressiveness, I have to say Ronnie Coleman. In the Arnold Classic, in the same year he won the Olympia, that he brought at the Arnold Classic was completely insane. Like his Christmas tree, his glutes, everything was just stupid. And you're like, holy shit, this is like, what the hell am I looking at? That was great. Yeah, I think he almost died that year. It was to get that type of condition. I think there's a lot of guys who almost died. Yeah, well, that's for sure. God bless everybody who has, God bless their souls, who have passed away. Yes. Unfortunately, too many have passed away, but that's another topic. Yeah. Well, a lot of people that do pass away already have pre-existing conditions that they weren't aware of, like heart conditions and stuff. And then when you start taking drugs, it just emphasizes it even more. But all right, we'll wrap it up. I want you to give a shout out to any of your sponsors or anyone that you want to give, any gyms or your crew, anything like that. Give them a shout out. Yeah, definitely. G Code Nutrition has been with me since day one in my comeback. I appreciate them. I appreciate what they bring to the table. They have amazing supplements. My food sponsor, New Jersey Gourmet. They provide me with a lot of my food. And more recently now, Chicken Pound, call Philippone. He hooked me up. And because I suck at cooking chicken. Yeah. Like the only protein that I'm just horrible at. So Chicken Pound is hooking me up. I want to thank them. And that's it. And anybody can reach me on Instagram at Vinny Galanti _. And I'm on Facebook too. My name, Vinny Galanti.
Awesome. Well, Vinny, I appreciate you coming on the show. Have to have you back on again, maybe after your show, and see how you did and do a recap of that. And I really appreciate you taking the time and giving us your knowledge and your experience to the viewers, because it's great to have guys on the show like you. So appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And looking forward to the future. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, we'll wrap it up. Peace, guys.